Today we're going to talk about 10 hidden costs of running a business. All right, like I said, today we're going to talk about 10 hidden costs of running a business. You know, a lot of people, they don't realize what all goes into it. They come out of the gates thinking if I made $15 an hour in my job, I can charge 15, 20 bucks an hour, make a profit running a business and really go out there and do well. And the fact of the matter is that's just not the case. The more you think about it, there's all of these costs associated with doing business. And those are just the obvious ones that you initially think of: the equipment, the computers, the office stuff, whatever line of business you're in. The obvious stuff is right there. But then there's a whole list of other things. And I'm only hitting on 10. You could go on with this list forever, but I'm going to talk about 10 today. So let's get into it. One of the biggest things that people seem to not realize, not pay attention to, is time. Time is the number one thing that I feel like, I get that everybody pays attention to it. We all pay attention to it if we've got people out there providing a service, creating something that we're billing a price for, and if they erode the profits because of time. But what about your time as the owner? You know, you think if you just kill yourself and you just work enough, it'll all happen. But you got to think about all that time that goes into it. And you got to think about, what was that time worth? I mean, if you're the owner and you're making creative decisions about a business, creative decisions about how to move forward, creative decisions for everything, that time is worth a lot. That's why they say you need to spend your time on $100 an hour, $200, $300 an hour ideas instead of spending it on $10 an hour things. So that's a great way to look at it. You know, am I working right now? So if you're in the landscaping field, lawn care field, am I out doing a $10 an hour job? If you're in the office, some kind of office job where there's office staff and maybe like some kind of tech industry, but if there's low-level office staff that are starting out, like, am I providing something someone can do for $10 an hour? Or am I working on the big stuff? So you gotta really think about it. Second, there's industry-related fees. You know, there's always gonna be something, you know, certain licensing for your industry. And, you know, getting into it, you might realize some of it. It depends on how well you thought about what you're getting into before you started about. But what licensing, you know, what kind of networking in your industry or conferences that could help you better grow your business. You know, people don't even really think about that stuff when they're starting. Like, what all could I go out to? Where all could I intermingle, network with other people to help me build a business faster, better, skip the problems and get straight to the good part of having a business, the running a successful business. You know, that's a cost that no one even thinks about, but it's there and it needs to be accounted for, because when you do those things, it erodes at your profit. You know, any of these things can affect the way your business profits. The third thing is training. So me being so involved in a service-related business, and a lot of the people that are going to watch this, at least right now, are probably still involved in the service-related business. But so training, you might not actually send your guys to some specific training that is changing their life and making them a better employee. But those guys going out in the field and learning from your other employees is still training. If they are learning on the job, getting better on the job, becoming more able to create your service to fill a customer's needs, they're being trained. And this costs money. So whether you actually pay $1,000 to go have someone trained or they learn on the job, it's still costing you money, because now you're not as efficient on a job. And if you bid a flat rate, it's going to erode how much profit you have in that job. So training is a huge thing to think about. It's something that a lot of times you're like, that's just the cost of doing business. And it is. But you need to think about, how much is that going to affect? Like, if I've got these multiple new guys, can I put them all on one job? Or are they going to just, there's too much they need to learn and it's going to hurt that job, or whatever the case is. But a huge cost that goes into doing business. The fourth thing is the cost of financing. You heard me, debt, the cost of financing. Let's go into the mower world. Everybody is, I got 0% interest on this mower. I got 0% interest on this cat. We just bought a cat skidster. I put some money down and the rest I borrowed. Cat offers 0% interest on their machines. This is not necessarily the best deal. And you're going to see this with mowers. Everybody thinks just because it's a 0% interest alone, it makes them feel good. It makes them feel like, oh man, the money is so cheap. But there are fees that go with that or that are cooked into the new price. So unless you got presented a cash price right from the get-go and you were able to somehow get that financed at that with 0% interest, you're going to have fees cooked in to finance that at 0% interest. All of these things, Sheffield, cat financing, they just take your interest and put it into the loan. So you're not getting around it. Now, there are some that we've used. There are some that are better than that. There's some that are truly a pretty good deal or extremely low interest rate. You know, our mowers, when we've borrowed on them, they've been an extremely low interest rate, even after you figure out the financing fee, the fee they charge for offering that. But you have to consider that. When we bought our cat, like I said, we put money down on that cat. And then we got a loan from a bank. I've got a relationship with our bank. We're able to borrow money if we want to. We've got to the point now where I called the banker and I said, hey, we're wanting to buy a cat. He said, what's the price? I said, it's $60,000. He said, just get me a purchase order. You guys are good to go. After building a relationship, you could do that. But so here's the thing. Why I did that is the cat dealer told me, he's like, you can get the 0% interest that everybody raves and talks about, but you're going to pay like $5,000 more for that cat. And I'm like, well, why do that? I'll get the low interest rate from my bank. I'll save that $5,000. I'll get a cheaper machine, have better payments on the machine. I'll also put money down on it that's going to make it even better yet, and it all just kind of comes together. So watch out for that hidden cost, extremely hidden when people are pushing 0%, and that zero makes people's eyes light up, and makes people think it's good, but it isn't always good. Okay, the next thing, we're on our fifth thing here now, and it is labor burden. So when you have an employee and they go out there and you're paying them 10, 15, 20, 30, 100, whatever the amount is an hour, that is not all it costs. There are so many things that go into this. There's all these things that go into a labor rate, what you pay a person, which we call burden, and things are like payroll taxes, workers' compensation, uniforms, tools and equipment, company events that they may be involved with that kind of go towards it costs a certain amount for that employee to attend, bonuses, the cost of living, raises, professional development, health insurance, if that's something you offer. All of those things, they all need to go into it. And I know workman's comp is something everybody talks about. That's different levels for different things you do. There's different class codes. So if you're hardscaping, it's high. If you're mowing, it's a lot lower. If you're clerical, it's super low. If you're painting, it's super low. If you're just full-blown sales staff, but you're out in the field enough to go do a sale, it's also fairly low. It's all over. Roofers probably pay the most, I think. Don't quote me on that because I don't know for sure. But there's all these things that go into creating this burden on the actual wage. So say someone mows for you. You might pay him $15 an hour. Really, it probably costs the business $19 an hour. So if you don't think about that before you get started on doing your numbers, you will not account for that and you will end up losing money over that. Then there's stuff like admin costs, so what kind of utilities, what kind of computers, phones, printers, filing cabinets, paper clips. Every little thing. Think about all that stuff that goes into doing business. And when you're providing a service or whatever it is you're doing, you might not even think about that stuff. But where are you going to be? Where are you going to grow to? How much is that going to cost? There's a lot of things that you need to consider. So the admin cost is another big one. Something else that goes into admin costs is like software. So like Service Autopilot for us, office cleaning supplies. It's just everything. There's so many little things that when you first go in, you might not think about it because you don't think you need it now. But you need to look towards the future and realize what am I building? I preach this all the time. It's like, what do you want to build and what is it going to cost when you get there? Not how cheap can we do it today so we can get some more. Don't approach it that way. Then there's taxes. If you make a profit, depending on if you're W-2ing yourself or you're taking draws, I am not a financial advisor. I am not going to tell you how to do this, but I mean, this is all depends. For example, we're an S corp. This could be a little different for someone doing business as it started off, or an LLC. So depending on how you take your money, if you take it on a W-2 and you take dividends and you take this and that, depending on how you take your money, you might not pay any taxes in, and it's really something to think of that depending on what money was profited in the business, how much are you actually going to owe back to Uncle Sam at the end of the year? Because if you're not thinking about that, it can catch you off guard. It can completely kill you. There's a lot of same thing with like the burden on an employee. You match their taxes. The tax is something that needs to be considered, but it's not one of those things you just go out and you're like, oh man, that's right there in front of me. That's something I'm going to have to pay for. So that's another huge one. Then there's fees and permits. This is big. Fees and permits, like it really depends on what you're doing, but is there some kind of permit to go do this project? Is there some kind of fee to be involved in a certain thing or to work in this certain area? Do you have to have some kind of license to get into that area? There are a lot of things that could affect a job, affect work that is being performed, anything. If there's some kind of permit that you don't think about, and then that gets stacked on top of there. And if you're going out there being as professional as possible, you want to make sure you're getting the permits required to do work so you can be professional. And those need to be priced into the job. Whether or not they're there, go out and look for them. Like landscaping wise, in our town, over 36 inches, they want you to have a permit for a retaining wall. Does anyone ever get it? It seems like they probably don't, but we've also had people look at our stuff so we know where we need to be, what we need to get, so we can stay how we need to be with the city. There's all kinds of things there. So now after that is insurance, liability insurance, inland marine for equipment that is all of your equipment, all the small tool stuff. I mean, there are so many things that you need to think about. You need to look at what that costs and associate that with the cost of doing business and build your prices based off of that. And a lot of guys might just look at a small liability plan and not think it's that bad. But the more that starts stacking up, liability, and now you're adding for these certain piece of equipment, these trucks. I've ventured off and I don't just mow, I landscape. And I also have some liability of doing, if any, snow plowing, if any, painting. I mean, whatever it is you do, there's all these layers that build up that you need to account for them. You need to know it's there. You need to watch that cost of your insurance rising and continue pushing that and breaking that back down into your business. Finally, this is one that luckily I haven't been super involved with. We've done a little bit, but legal fees. So if you have a lawyer, because maybe you want to have an NDA, so a non-disclosure agreement, you want to have a lawyer write that for you. That is something that a lot of businesses have, because if you're going to be employed by them, they don't want you to disclose any of the information after you go away, so they make new employees sign that. The other thing that people have you sign is a non-compete, which I signed for the first landscape company I ever worked for. And that's basically saying in this certain circumference of that person's business or however they set it up, that you will not compete with them. You will not work in that area. It is against the law for you to work in that area. So that's another thing you might have set up, and a lawyer is going to need you to do that. And then, I mean, there's so much advice a lawyer can give you as far as business structure, what limits your liabilities the most, looking over contracts and documentation. All those things are things to know. Some of them you might not be able to consider because you don't know what it's going to cost until you get to the point of needing it. And some of these things are just that way, that until you get there, you won't know. But those are some things that are kind of outside of the norm. They're outside of, hey, I need a mower, I need a weed eater. Hey, I need a computer and I need this software programming tool. Hey, I need these products. It's something outside of the stuff that's You can't just look at the stuff that is right in front of you. You have to try to catch everything and at least be prepared for some of the stuff that you're not going to initially account for. So guys, I hope this gave you some benefit. I hope this was enlightening for you, because just the research looking into some of these other things kind of showed me more of the stuff that, hey, I want to keep continually getting on top of this stuff and looking at this stuff, because we are in business to make a profit. If you're not making a profit in business, go work a job for somebody. Flat out. If you're not making a profit in business, if you're not, and if your profit's low, it better be because you're growing, but if you're maintaining at a certain spot, not making a huge profit, get out of business, go work for somebody, because that's the only reason. That's why we can't feel bad about our prices. We can't feel bad about raising prices. You can't feel bad if customers don't like your prices, because this is our livelihood, and that's what you got to go do. Guys, let's go make some money. Please leave some comments down below. Tell me what you thought about this video. See if it brought up anything you didn't think about. Like this to get more information like this, more business related information. And subscribe to get more information. Be a part of this community where we grow and we share information with each other. Let's go kill it, guys. Have a great day.